The following is a rebroadcast of the 1995 Tournament of Champions. Be sure to join Doug Brown and Dan Murphy on Sunday, October 8th for a brand new season of Candlepin, Stars and Strikes.
Welcome to the 7th annual Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions.
WNDS Sports and Tri-State Megabucks present Candlepin, Stars and Strikes.
Oh, look at this. Look at this. He got it. Ready for a spare.
Candlepin, Stars and Strikes is sponsored in part by Washington Toyota Dodge Nissan. Looks good.
Looks good. That's good to go. It's a
Candlepin, Stars and Strikes is produced in conjunction with the New Hampshire Candlepin Bowling Association. And now your hosts, Doug Brown and Dan Murphy.
Hi, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us. And thanks to everybody here at Park Place Lanes in Windham, New Hampshire. Doug Brown along with Dan Murphy. It's semifinal week of the 7th annual Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions, and we have had 3 terrific weeks so far.
We keep saying the next week can't top last week, but who knows? Katie bar the door. These bowlers have been bowling exceptionally well, and we've got 3 of the top-notch bowlers in the game right now left in the tournament.
All right, let's meet 2 of them, the 2 that will be battling here today in the semifinals. First of all, our number 3 seed from Plastow, New Hampshire, Gary Carrington.
Okay, Gary carries an average of 129, has a high single of 195, and his qualifying score 416. And
of course, last Sunday, in case you missed it, Gary rolled a 456, including a triple strike as he rolled to a win over John Plant in the 3rd week of this Tournament of Champions series. And now Gary will be going for his 2nd win in a row, and he will face our number 2 seed from Haverhill, Massachusetts, Chris Sargent.
Okay, and Chris averages 131, has a high single of 199, has an individual high triple of 530, and I believe that is a world's record at this time. His qualifying score was 421.
All right, of course, we have bonus money on the line. We've given away a lot of bonus money in this tournament so far, and we will have more on the line today for consecutive marks. We'll detail that a little bit later on. $40 in the bonus ball contest later, and of course, 3 great games of Candlepin bowling coming up. Gary Carrington and Chris Sargent will get it started when we come back. Don't go away. Well, as Dan mentioned, the top 3 bowlers remain in the 1995 Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions. Gary Carrington having knocked off the very hot John Plant, who won the first 2 weeks of this tournament. Gary then with the big 456 a week ago to knock off John and move into the semifinals. So it's the top 3 seeds remaining, Gary and Chris today, and the winner of this one goes for the title next week against our number 1 seed, Paul Berger. Gary to start the match. Last week, Gary with games of 137, 149, and 170.
Oh, and what a 10.
He threw 7 strikes a week ago, including a triple right at the end of the match.
He'll try his luck at the 3, 5, and 9. Might have caught Gary's arm waving that wood, and he'd like to have the wood in closer, but oh, that's a great shot.
Got it anyway.
Always tough with that sleeper in the back. Made it look easy. He puts his first mark up.
And now Chris Sargent. Chris qualified for the tournament in March with a 421, but he had to win 3 matches to get here. And he starts with the spare. Chris has brought some rooters.
I guess so.
Chris had to beat Bob Ferrara, Kevin Davis, and Bruno DeFeo in that order. The week before he qualified for the Tournament of Champions, he threw a 457 in the semifinals to beat Kevin Davis, but then he threw the 421, which counted as his qualifying score, good for the number 2 seed.
Oh, just sliding by the head pin.
This match today featuring the last 2 guys to qualify for the tournament. Chris in March and Gary in April. And the 10 for Chris Sargent in the second. So each bowler on the board with a mark already. Gary Carrington on a spare. The big 8 fill.
610, couple pieces of wood. Should be no problem. Gary's near that red line of the right piece. He's right on the red line, 2 in a row.
Chance for early bonus money here. Emmett Horgan gets ready to open the checkbook yet again. He's been busy during this Tournament of Champions. Emmett Horgan, of course, and the gang down at Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan, Route 97, Main Street, Salem, New Hampshire, providing the bonus money this season here on Candlepin Stars and Strikes. Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan. This is going to be a heck of a shot if it goes. Not quite. Last week, Gary had $425 in bonus money. 2 weeks ago, in case you missed it, Tom Morgan threw a 191 second game, and that included a 4-bagger. 4 strikes in a row. Tom wound up with $600 in bonus money for that hour.
Chris Sargent for his 3rd and 4th frames.
And Chris punches through.
Ready when it goes. Ready when it goes, Chris.
No, almost.
Chris starts his approach on the right-hand side of the lane and walks to the left.
Interesting contrast in styles, too. Chris using all of the approach for his long 3-step, rather 4-step approach to the foul line. He takes a very short step first with his right foot. Gary, of course, very little wasted motion in his approach. He gets as close to the foul line as anybody.
That's right.
Starting out, very little wasted motion, 3-step approach. And can't make it go over there. The runner-up today gets 3rd place prize money of $400. And the winner, of course, moves into the championship next week. The winner next week gets $1,500.
Gary will try his luck at the 4 horsemen on the right. 1, 3, 6, and 10.
Not quite. $9 for Gary, somehow. 10 pin is still there. A quick reminder that coming up this Saturday here on the Winds of New England, that's Saturday, May the 20th at 12 noon, we will continue our coverage of the 1995 New Hampshire Candlepin Bowling Association State Championship with the men's semifinal. That'll be this coming Saturday at 12 noon from the Londonderry Bowling Center. And as of when we tape this show, we don't know who'll be in the semifinal, but there's a possibility that for the first time in competition that Mr. Murphy may be appearing on the show.
1, 3, 7, and 10.
You better hope you make it, because if you don't...
Put a lot of pressure on it. There's enough pressure on that. There's a lot of good bowls in that, and it's a test of endurance as well. You bowl a lot of games.
Well, you should need no more motivation other than the fact that you'll have to listen to me talk about the fact that you didn't make it for 2 hours if you don't. Chris Sargent now trying to match the spare for Gary Sargent in the 6. Gary Carrington, I should say. And he does match it and better it, in fact, with the strike.
Yes, he would take the skin in this case, but wrong show.
Was there a bowler named Gary Sargent? That name does sound familiar now that I've said it.
Ooh, the 5-7. That was on a spare.
The 5 and 7 with
I got
no
a
wood.
feeling he's going to cut this over.
Ooh.
Close.
Nine. Gary a little heavy on the head pin, but a good turn of the wood.
Yeah, possibilities there with the 3, 6, and 7 pins. Piece of wood behind the 3 pin. Right now his first task is to make sure he catches the 3 pin. Oh,
he got it.
Thought he might be a little light on it to the left, but just enough to trip the 6 pin. Watch the 3 pin come off the wall. Wood will take the 7. 3 pin just from behind on the 6.
4 marks for Gary, all spares. Chris Sargent now working on a strike. Chris making his first ever appearance in the Tournament of Champions. And he's got spare on strike.
Possible bonus money now. Spare strike, 2 in a row. Needs 3 for the $25 bonus.
Right in the pocket, and
that's
my.
a bad break there.
Oh boy, the 6 pin goes over, and now this is virtually impossible. Love to see him make it, though.
Well, I've seen pins come out of the pit.
Nope.
Tried to cut it, but sometimes if you hit it flush, hits the curtain in the back, and once that happens, if it comes back, it's perfectly legal. 103 through 8. Gary Carrington at 98. Anything over 5, he'll regain the lead.
And there's 7.
He'll shoot at the triangle. 3, 5, 6.
No. Gary turned away, knew he had misfired. That's the ball he wanted. Becomes a 10 box. Gary's 456 last week, the second highest triple ever rolled in the Tournament of Champions to Tim Lipke's 467, and a big strike in the 10th for Gary. His first strike of the day. Oh, pretty good ball there. Not much of a mix that time, though.
5, 6, 9, 10. No wood. This will just be the fill on the strike.
And he's got it. Great shot. Spare on strike in the 10th, 135. Very difficult shot. Let's look.
Just play the triangle. Hopefully you get something off the wall, and that's exactly what happened for the 5 pin. Chris Sargent for his 9th frame. Trailing by 2.
Chopped out the 1, 5, and 8.
Unless Chris is going to throw a double strike, Gary Carrington will have the lead after one.
Chris from Haverhill, Mass. He and his wife Jean have a 3-year-old son, Patrick, and one on the way who is due any day as of the day we tape this. In fact, we can tell you that Chris and Jean are expecting daughter Allison.
Oh, disappointing 6 on the end for 117.
So an 18-pin advantage for Gary Carrington after game 1. This is the semifinals of the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions. Chris Sargent trailing by 18 pins and kicking off game 2 here.
Missed the head pin to the left, but left himself just the 1 and 3 pins.
Got it. Mark number 4 for Chris Sargent. Gary Carrington has 6. Oh, big Phil. That was a terrific looking ball in the Brooklyn pocket. And that piece of wood will be out of play, and probably Chris would like to have it stay there. Otherwise, he's going to have to cut the 6-pin over into the 7.
Well, there's room to do it, but I agree with you. He probably would like to have some kind of playable wood.
And that's 9. Gary Carrington now.
Oh, the 1 and the 5.
And 5.
Chris Sargent, another one of those that does not like to look at his opponent when they're bowling.
Oh, look at this. Boy, he almost made that look easy, didn't he?
The reaction of the crowd can tell you it was very close to making that for a spare.
9 box for Gary. Great effort on the spare attempt. Back in the pocket, big strike.
That was so tight in the 1-3 pocket. Gary threw his arms up. I think he thought it might have been a little too full, but it was just perfect, and he trips that 4-pin for the strike. That was another explosive one. Boy, he's thrown some quick strikes last week, and that's his first one today or second? Second one. On the other
Sargent, thin, but it's still happening for him. Getting a little bit better, but the wood isn't angled the way he'd like.
Second piece is rolling in. That one turned a little more. Looks to me like you'd have to try to take both pieces of wood next to the 5.
And he got it. Great shot. A round of applause from Gary Carrington in back for that one. That's a terrific play.
Very nice. Not much room for error there. And now the fill. And he gets the 1-5. Unfortunately, his is on a spare.
Can he make it? Oof. Gives it a run. That'll be an 8.
What you have to marvel with some of these bowlers that we're watching is that even the most impossible spares, or the seemingly impossible, they almost make these. I mean, they come very close to cutting these pins over and left and right. And you throw an object 60 feet and you're able to do that. That's a lot of talent.
Oh, and Gary on a strike this time has the spread eagle. Well, you were just talking about it.
Let's see. If he hits it like he did when he jumped out the 1-5, he had a chance of making it. Well, not this time. Just 5 on the strike.
Well, that gives you an idea of Gary's confidence. He was trying to make that. He was not worried about the fill. He was trying to make the spread eagle.
So just 22 pins in those 2 boxes with a spare strike 5-7. So the lead now is just 10 pins in favor of Gary Carrington.
Right back in the pocket, the 5 and the 9 with no wood. And he's got it. And that takes us to a break. 2 marks for each bowler here in this middle game. Gary Carrington with the lead on Candlepin, Stars and Strikes. We're coming right back. Chris Sargent works as an auxiliary police officer in Haverhill. Also a custodian at the Golden Hill School.
Boy, gives you 5, pal.
Oh, everything but the 7.
Corner pins cause a lot of trouble sometimes, the 7 and 10. 57 at the halfway point, second game.
Back on the head pin, kicks out the right side. Looked like he might have a bad split.
Well, that's going to be a tough shot. That wood couldn't be any worse. Out in front and angled away. He throws it hard enough, he might be able to drive it right through.
Oh,
yes, just enough to catch that 10.
That's a great shot.
Should say the 7 pin. Just enough, right there. Almost went by the 7. Gary Carrington now on the spare.
Carries 7. He'll shoot at the triangle. With wood.
Yeah, not good wood though. Could prevent him from getting the 5. There it is.
Oh boy. Well, he touched it, but not enough. Well, halfway through the match, right up to this point, completed boxes. Gary leading by 19. Let's see what happened.
You'll see the wood go right to the left side wall, come back in front of the 5, and back again. Just didn't have the good angle.
Well, Gary got away with one that time. The 1-3 for a possible spare.
Same situation here. He may have trouble with the 3 pin.
No.
Not this time.
Well,
Matches spares.
Gary's been over there on lane 31 8 times in the match, and he has 7 marks.
You know, I almost said that last time up. He looks a lot more comfortable on the left-hand lane for some reason.
He actually has 8 marks over there because he had a strike on spare on strike to finish game 1. 5 on the spare for Chris Sargent.
I haven't seen the Chris that we know, and he hasn't gotten that zone yet, or that fluid motion where he can throw 3 or 4 or 5 marks in a row. Puts a couple on the head pin, and they'll miss it a couple times. So
9, 81 through 7. Also seeing Gary Carrington up there with a or rather there with a spare in the 6th. Reminds us that he did most of his damage last week in the second half of the 3 games.
It's amazing. Both bowlers of this caliber, we only had one of the 2 bowlers throw 2 marks in a row. That was Gary Carrington back in the 2nd and 3rd frames of the 1st game. And you see Gary's strike, open, spare, and that's all in lane 31. We had strike on, yeah.
He also had spare on
strike on that,
right.
on the 10th, yeah.
Just 3 on the fill for Gary.
But see, to me, that's just the fill on the strike. That's really not a spare. Remember, we got a letter on that. A triple strike in the last box, yes, is not a triple strike. It's a strike and then the fill. Well, whatever it is, it counts 30, and we'll give away 250 bucks if it happens.
It counts 250 bucks too. No matter when it happens.
Lead now 14 pins for Gary Carrington. Opposite a spare by Chris Sargent.
Oh, big strike.
He trumps that with his strike.
And he continues this streak over on lane 31. Speaking of strikes, by the way, we talked about Gary's triple last week. In the last 5 boxes of that 3rd game last week, Gary had 113 pins. 5 boxes.
Chris just was full on the head pin, but he was able to blow out the 10 pin, which leaves him just the 4-7. A couple pieces of wood, but the way he throws his ball, the ball should just drive right through these pins for the 4-7. Oh.
Nope.
Wrong, Dan.
Guess again. That piece of wood will be out of play. Cindy Sissom working the big scoreboard and handling the unplayable wood for us, as always, here at Park Place Lanes. And still, neither bowler has been able to get 2 marks in a row in this game. Almost tell that was a strike before it happened.
Chris, as we check the scoreboard, we have to correct ourselves that Chris Sargent has thrown two marks in a row, strike spare back in the 1st game as well. 119.
A little full that time.
That's 2 or 3 times he's been full, but he's breaking up the extra pin, giving himself a spare leave. A dangerous thought that he's going full and breaking them up, because you know sooner or later he's going to start hitting the pocket. 129, a quiet 129.
So are you telling me that for all these years when I've been like that situation right there, it was spare on strike in the 10th, that should only count as 1 mark instead of 2?
Yeah, it's really just the fill on the strike.
I don't buy it.
Well, I'm not selling it anyway. I forget who we had the letter from one time, but
this is on a strike for Gary Carrington, looking for his 2nd mark in a row, and no.
Missed badly. Well, I say missed badly. Missed badly to the left for him because it's 3 or 4 inches.
Well, back over to lane 31 now though, where Gary has been 9 times, and he's marked 8 of those times.
So what should I put down, a spare or a strike? It's going to be one heck of a spare. 2, 4, and 6. No wood.
Oh, well, Gary will maintain his lead, but it won't be by much. With 1 game to go. 10 in the 10th for Gary. 115, a 2-game total of 250. For Chris Sargent, 129 here in the 2nd, a 2-game total of 246. The lead is 4 for Gary Carrington. 1 game to decide who will advance to next week's championship match when we come back. Game 3 now.
Just 4 pins separating Gary Carrington, Chris Sargent with the right to go on to the finals next week against Paul Berger.
Well, with all the excitement we have had in this tournament, one thing we have not had is a match go down to the final box. Maybe we'll have that here.
Absence so far in this match, too, is bonus money, which is
right.
Surprising. If you said, get Chris Sargent and Gary Carrington coming on in the first 2 games, no bonus money will be given away. I don't think we'd believe it.
9 to open the 3rd game for Gary Carrington. Again, the runner-up here today gets $400 plus whatever bonus money they do accumulate, and the winner, shot at the big money next week against Paul Berger. Don't forget, men's semifinals of the New Hampshire State Championship coming up Saturday here on the Winds of New England, Saturday at 12 noon from the Londonderry Bowling Center. Men's championship, state championship, will be the following Saturday, May 27th at 12 noon.
Right now. Let's go.
2 open frames for Gary Carrington. Chris Sargent steps up now. And he will have a split.
Yeah, just the last few boxes, he was kicking out that extra pin. This time he leaves the 2, 6, and 10, and he's going to try to cut the 2 over. So a piece of wooden back might help. Oh.
Nope. Chris takes the 9 in the corner.
I'll leave one here.
And another split, this time the 1, 7, and 9, with a piece of wood that may help in the middle. Nope, missed the object.
So, no harm, no foul. No bowler's got a mark up in the first 2 frames. That advantage back to Gary Carrington. Gains 1 in count, lead now 5.
Gary will have a spare leave on the 6-10. And he gets it.
Spare in the 3rd.
Believe it or not, Dan, that's only his 2nd mark on lane 32 in this match. He has 9 over on lane 31, where he is now.
Just a little high in that one, just a little full. 2, 4, 6, 10, no wood.
Nope. And the 10. So Gary gets 1 mark up on the board, and he'll now take a seat and watch what Chris Sargent can do to answer.
Three, 6, 10.
Again, Dan, another one of those deliveries that looked a little full, but he was able to blow out the left side. And he's got the spare.
Matches the spare put up by Gary in the 3rd.
In the pocket for the strikeout spare. Don't go away. We're going to have to bowl a little more to settle this one. We'll be back on Stars and Strikes. Gary Carrington up on the approach. Box number 5. Game 3, Tournament of Champions semifinals. His lead is 1 right now, but he'll probably lose the lead, temporarily at least, when Chris Sargent comes up to fill that strike.
Well, 3 and 6. He pulled the ball to the left on these 2 pins before. Not this time. He's right on the 3 and the 6 for a spare in the 5th. Now he moves over the lane that he's been handling pretty well through most of the match.
Brooklyn hit, and there's the strike on spare. Answering the call of Chris Sargent. Here's another look at the strike.
There you go. Just a matter of time before the 8-pin goes. Chris throws another. This place is going to get noisy.
Let's listen. Noisy enough for you? There it is again.
I wasn't lying. That's $25 in bonus money, but this could be $250 right here with another one.
It's a 7. Chris takes the lead in the match.
You got a tough choice here. To make the spare, you have to cut the 3-pin, but you might want the fill and take the 2.
That's what he's going to do. Takes the 9 fill. Probably a wise move in what looks like it will be a very, very tight finish. Chris with the lead at 15, but of course keep in mind Gary Carrington now working on a hanging strike. Can he answer with the double?
Wants that wood to turn a little bit. Now, I don't know if it turned quite enough for him, but the back wood will keep the 3 and the 5 in play a little longer for him. Got a shot at making this. No, it's a little high in the wood. Just got a little too much of the cap. Put the lead back down into single numbers, though.
10 for Gary. And unlike last week, Gary is first at bat in this match, so he's got to post a score.
Yep, and this is the box you want to do it, right here in the 8th. I mean, you like the 9th and 10th as well, but...
Well, Gary again thought he was going to be punching through the center. It was a punch out, but at least it's something he might be able to work with here.
Yeah. Got to go after the 2-4, and you get the wood, maybe dance it across. He's got a shot at it.
Oh, wow. What a great effort. Well, 2 open boxes. And a golden opportunity here for Chris Sargent.
Come on. All the way, right here.
You know, Chris would like to have at least 1 out of 2 marks. Push that lead back into double figures, which would force Gary to get at least 2 marks.
Oh, look out. Boy, that ball hopped down there, and he still got it right in the pocket for a 9 drop.
It doesn't take him much time to get the next ball and ready to go either. Oh, maybe rushed a little too much on that one.
Well, 2 weeks ago, we saw John Plant miss a single pin late in the match. It did not cost him. Let's see if it comes back to haunt Chris Sargent. On lane 31. Now, there it is, the strike! He did exactly what John Plant did 2 weeks ago. He followed the missed single with a strike.
And that is a big one. In the 8th frame, Gary Carrington's got to think, I need at least 2 marks and then a break from Chris, or I need double strike.
Four horsemen plus the 9. With Wood holding him back. And
oh, I can't believe it.
Oh, my. The 10 box. Here's what happened.
He was a little heavy on the head pin, but right there I thought he was getting something off the wall. Actually, it hit that 10 pin. It's rocking, but it's not going to go down for the spare.
Last box for Gary.
And that should, barring a minor miracle, that should give it to Chris.
Oh, let's wait here. Let's wait. No. Gary finishes with a 123 and a 373. Chris Sargent already at 360. Plus he's working on a strike. Spread eagle. That, of course, counts 8, though. 4 on the strike and 4 in the box. And that will do it. That does it. Nine 131. Chris is already now at 377.
Mark for 50 here. Come on. Come on, throw it, Jackie. Mark for 50 here.
A little heavy again, but again he blows out the left side. Has the spare in the 10th. And I've heard somebody in the crowd calling for a 150. You'll need a 9 drop to get it.
387 right now.
Oh, he gets 9 and almost 10. A 150 game for Chris Sargent. 396. Next Sunday, it'll be Chris Sargent against Paul Berger for the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions title. We'll be back with the bonus ball contest, talk with the bowlers, and set you up for next weekend after these messages. Welcome back to Park Place Lanes. Doug Brown back here along with Dan Murphy, and week number 4, the semifinals, goes to Chris Sargent. He had to come from behind to do it. Gary Carrington, well, he had the ball working from time to time during the match, but really it came down to that double strike. That little flurry in the third did it for Chris.
Yeah, that's right. Gary had some to shoot at. I think he got most of the ones he was able to, legitimate spare leaves, but just wasn't enough, and the double strike was the difference in the end.
All right, let's talk to both bowlers. First of all, a round of applause for Gary Carrington, who had that huge 456 a week ago. Today on the short end, but I do have the third place check for you, Gary, here for $400, and of course you picked up an extra 4 1/4 in bonus money last week, so pretty good pay sequence for you. And Chris, well, we talked about him last week, what a good young bowler he is, and he got it done today.
Yeah, he's very good. He gets a smell at it, and he takes it from there. He's a tiger, like I said. A lot of bowlers can't do that. So,
and there's I think we should emphasize this too. It's a very narrow difference between a 456 last week and the lower score this week. It seems like a big difference in pins, but it's a very narrow difference in terms of what you make and what you miss. It really, you had the good ball working. It just wasn't happening like it did last time.
Right. Well, I had a second string. I had too many bad boxes. I had 7 and a 6, and that sort of kills the string. And the other guys, if he throws marks, and that's the more you have to come back after him, and it was tough. It was tough this time around. Wish it could always be like last week.
Well, I'm sure you'll be remembering last week for a while. Well, that was a terrific show you put on. Thanks very much. Congratulations, Gary. Congratulations, as always. And now we will have our bonus ball contest. Chris Sargent on lane 31 to roll the ball and see if we can get a winner here. $40 in the jackpot. A couple of sets of brand new bowling balls on the line as well. And here we go. Well, let's try wait a minute. Hold on. Don't draw it yet. It's a 7. It is a 7 with the kick out of the 7 pin. And it's not a match. For James Mortensen of Lexington, Massachusetts, James guessed 8. You didn't get quite enough carry for James. And so James will be sending you a consolation gift, and we'll move that jackpot up to $50 next week. And you'll be here next week for the championship match. Nice job in that third game.
Thank you. Found the zone a little late. I got to get it in nice and early this week. So.
Well, sometimes you get that one little flurry in a close match, and that can decide, and that's really what happened.
Yeah, the double strike really. That's where you had to get it going. So.
Well, what do you know about Paul Berger? Seems like he's been here a few times before.
Quite a few. Yes, I know him really well.
Well, we're looking forward to that championship match next week. I know you'll be back for that.
Definitely.
All right, Chris. Thanks very much. Congratulations. Chris Sargent, and he will be ready to go next Sunday here at 12 noon. Once again, we'll review it. We are left with the top 2 seeds here in the Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions as they were set up when we began this whole thing. Paul Berger and Chris Sargent, and they will battle it out next week for the big money. And interestingly enough, Dan, this is the 7th year of the Tournament of Champions. It's only the 2nd time that it's been number 1 against number 2 in the finals. And the first time was back in the first tournament in 1989.
That's amazing. 1 and 2, although the other aspect of the whole thing is Paul Berger's my generation, and there's the younger generation, so it's a matchup there, too, of a lot of pride.
I'm not going to ask where I fit into all this. I think we'll leave it right there. But we do want to remind you that next weekend, another big weekend here on the Winds of New England for Candlepin Bowling. First of all, Saturday at 12 noon from the Londonderry Bowling Center, we will have the men's semifinals of the New Hampshire State All Events Championship. That will be Saturday at noon. And then, of course, next Sunday at noon right here at Park Place Lanes, it'll be the Tournament of Champions final match between our number 1 seed, Paul Berger, and our number 2 seed, Chris Sargent. So until next weekend, for Dan Murphy and the whole Winds of New England crew, I'm Doug Brown. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend, everybody.